The world is changing at lightning speed, but for almost a century, the way we learn has pretty much stayed the same. Well, it's time for an upgrade. We're going to toss out the old playbook and give you a new one.
So let me ask you this. Does it ever feel like you're putting in all the hours, just grinding away, but you're not getting the results you want? If that sounds familiar, you might be following a set of ancient learning rules that, frankly, decades of research have shown just don't work. So in this explainer, we're going to tackle these outdated rules in 3 big areas: how you practice, how your brain actually understands things, and the kind of mindset you need for real growth. And of course, we'll wrap it all up with a brand new, actionable playbook you can literally start using today.
First up, let's talk about practice. We're going to completely dismantle 2 of the biggest myths about how to build skills. Because, as you're about to see, it's really not about how much time you put in, but how you use that time.
Okay, this first old rule is probably the most famous one out there. To get good, just practice more. It's the whole idea behind that 10,000-hour rule we've all heard about. But the new habit, the one that actually works, is this. To get good, you have to practice smarter.
So just how much does pure volume actually matter? Well, a huge meta-analysis back in 2014 looked at this, and what they found was shocking. For most professional skills, the amount of practice only explains about 1% of the difference in performance. 1%? That proves that once you've got the basics down, how you practice becomes way more important than just how much.
And that leads right into our second myth, this idea of hyper-specialization, that you have to focus on just one tiny thing. The problem is, this usually leads to a plateau. You just hit a wall and get diminishing returns because you're doing the same thing over and over. A much better approach is to generalize your practice. Try applying your skills in different situations from totally different angles.
So, how do you actually start practicing smarter? Here's your first tool, and it's super simple. A 3-step learning log. Every single time you sit down to practice, just ask yourself these 3 questions. What am I practicing? Why am I doing it this specific way? And what am I actually learning from it? This little habit forces you to be strategic, so you're not just mindlessly clocking in hours.
Okay, now that we've sorted out how to practice, let's get into the mental game. We're talking about the difference between just memorizing something and truly, deeply understanding it. This is all about how your brain is wired to build knowledge that actually sticks.
We've all had this drilled into us, right? Seek to understand, not to memorize. And look, nobody's saying rote memorization is the goal, but the research is really clear. Simply trying to understand isn't the most effective strategy either. The real key, the new habit, is to use deep processing to actively create that understanding.
So what's the actual difference? Well, shallow processing is stuff like rote repetition, or even just passively reading something with the intention of understanding it. Deep processing, on the other hand, is active. It's when your brain is making comparisons, it's looking for patterns, it's building this whole web of connections. That's where the magic of real learning happens.
And this brings us to a really important shift in how we think about this. Understanding isn't the action you take, it's the result. It's a symptom, a byproduct that you get after you've done the hard work of deep processing. It's the proof that you've learned something right. This idea connects directly to another classic rule we need to break. If you want to remember it, write it down. But just copying words onto a page, that's shallow processing. The real power of writing comes when you use it as a tool for thinking. So the new habit is this. Don't just write to record, write to think.
You've probably heard about that study that says handwriting is better for learning. But here's what most people miss. It's not really about the magic of the pen. It's about the fact that writing by hand is slow. It forces you to stop being a stenographer and start paraphrasing, synthesizing, and connecting ideas, which is a fantastic form of deep processing. So the real takeaway isn't to ditch your laptop, it's to make sure you're thinking more than you're just transcribing.
All right, let's move on to our final section, mindset. This is all about how you turn the inevitable struggle of learning something new into genuine expertise. And it really all starts with how you approach difficulty itself.
The old rule, the one a lot of us subconsciously follow, is that if something is hard to learn, well, the teacher must be bad, or the book must be poorly written. The new habit completely flips that on its head. If it's difficult, that's your signal. That's your big opportunity to learn. I mean, think about it like lifting weights at the gym. The struggle is the point. That discomfort is exactly what's building your mental muscle.
So next time you hit that wall where things just feel hard, don't give up and blame the material. Try one of these strategies. First, create an analogy. Try to connect this new, confusing idea to something you already get.
Or try to teach the concept to someone else, but in the simplest terms possible. Both of these tactics force your brain to find the core patterns, and that is the very heart of deep processing.
And now for the final rule we're going to break. Get more experience to build intuition. Now this one is tricky, because here's the thing. Research shows experience always builds confidence, but it doesn't always build competence. So the real goal isn't just to get more experience, it's to get the right kind of experience. So what is the right experience? Well, researchers Daniel Kahneman and Gary Klein discovered there are two critical conditions you need for your experience to build accurate intuition. First, you need what they call a high-validity environment. That's just a fancy way of saying a situation where the patterns are stable and the rules don't change all the time. Think of a game like chess, not picking stocks. And second, you need timely and accurate feedback on your decisions. If you don't have both of those, your intuition might just be overconfidence in disguise.
Okay, let's put this all together. Here it is, your new learning playbook. Instead of practicing longer, practice smarter. Instead of hyper-focusing, generalize. Use deep processing to actually create understanding. Write to think, not just to copy things down. See difficulty not as a roadblock, but as the path to growth. And finally, build real, trustworthy intuition with the right feedback in the right environments.
Look, you don't have to change everything all at once. That's not the point. Just take a look at this new playbook and ask yourself one simple question. Which one of these outdated rules are you going to break first?